Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Sessions. I know it's been a while since I've been able to upload a podcast, but I have a whole better setup now. It should sound a whole lot clearer. Um, and I kind of wanted to talk about some things that I've been seeing online. A constant conversation for tattoo artists is, how to stay booked. And at this point now, I've been tattooing for 13 years. So it's been, a constant thing that I have to pay attention to. It's something that, if you're not trying to make changes in the way you do things, or you're constantly doing the same thing, but nothing changes and you're still not getting booked, well, then you know that something's wrong. And so I'm just going to want to point out some things that maybe you haven't thought about, maybe that you haven't looked at, some things that I've came across that have definitely worked for me in the past, and that I would totally recommend for you. First of all, are you even putting yourself out there? I've seen way too many tattoo artists that don't even show their face online, that don't put themselves out there. And it's an odd thing. I know some tattoo artists can be introverted. Some of them can be a little bit more, to themselves, not too outgoing or anything like that. But people like to be able to associate the artwork or the page or the Instagram post to the person, to a face, and actually know that it's a real person there, and so actually showing your face and you showing what you look like, maybe even like a reel or a post, something that's a little bit more personable, it goes a long way. You know what I mean? I've seen a lot of pages where it's just artwork, which is dope. It's awesome. You know what I mean? And then maybe just a logo for your profile picture, which is fine too, because you do want to promote your brand and that sort of thing. But are you even putting yourself out there, right? In this new age of social media, that's one of the biggest things that you want to look out for or pay attention to. And if you're more on the introverted side, I get it. I totally get it. It can be nerve-wracking, even doing stuff like this where we're like, I set up a camera and I set up a microphone and all that. And this is in a way trying to put myself out there as well. But with practice, the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to start to feel with it, or maybe not worry so much about other people's opinions. Or it's nobody's opinion when you're trying to create a post with you. There's nobody else there. If you're doing it in a shop with other artists, just let them know that you need to make some posts, some content, and just go for it. Put yourself out there. Start putting those reels. If you feel like you want to do humorous type of stuff, that's fine. Do that, but just give it a shot, because the more you sit there and you're kind of stuck in paralysis analysis, it's only going to set you back further and further. And there are other artists out there who are putting themselves out there, who are, that people are going to end up gravitating more towards. So that's a huge thing, Also talking about social media. Social media there's no way around it. This is an age of social media. I remember I started really posting a lot more back in 2021, like sort of time when TikTok was really blowing up from 2020 during lockdown and all that everybody was online. And then 2021, it was like, hey, influencers are huge right now. So I started posting more and more on TikTok, and then eventually ended up having some videos that went viral. And so then I started pushing those over to Instagram and Facebook. And surprisingly enough, Facebook ended up taking off way further than even like my TikTok page and all that. But the whole point was that I was putting myself out there, and I thought, I'm going to give this social media thing a try, And even though that was a perfect time to get into it, because you could blow up really, really fast. And right now it is a little bit tough. I'm not going to lie. It's way harder than it used to be. TikTok right now reminds me of Instagram. I'm going to say, 2015-ish, where it was very difficult to really start picking up. I think it's even worse now. And Instagram is really pushing for you to pay instead, which we'll talk about as well. But the main thing you want to focus on is just to try it, give it a shot. And most people don't care if you have one post on TikTok, and then you force all of those posts over to all this other social medias, it's all the same. People like it all the same. There's different crowds as well on each social media, and then you can kind of cater, the caption and cater the description and all that kind of stuff depending on the social media. But you do gotta, put yourself out there, right? Like, you have to actually start to want to put yourself out there. So also talking about social media, another question that comes up, if you have a smaller page or you're barely starting out, you have a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years under your belt. If you're in that 5 to 6 year, maybe you do have some clientele, right? But you probably don't have a huge page just yet. Are you following up with every single person that follows you on your page? You can see when somebody follows you on the page, right? Like, you can see this person started following you. Do you shoot them a message and say, hey, thank you for the follow, and just leave it at that? You don't have to, hey, let me get you on the books or anything like that, right? Like, do you reach out to them and say, hey, thank you for the follow, just give them a thanks, a little acknowledgement, And luckily enough, I made it to a place now where I don't have to do that sort of thing anymore. I used to do this thing where I would do the follow for follow system, where I would go to somebody's page. If I see that they're a tattoo artist, I go to their likes, the people that like them, that post, I go and hit follow, right? And just shooting in the dark, right? And I did catch some clients that way, because then they're like, who the heck is this person following me? Again, because they have smaller accounts, right? And they can see that. And then they see my page. Oh, this is another tattoo artist. Why would they like my page? Whatever, right? And I did actually get some people that hit me up and said, like, why did you click like on my page or whatever? But either way, I did end up getting followers. I ended up getting people to hit me back up, and I ended up catching some clients that way. You could try that method, but I think the biggest thing is, how do you treat your social media? Are you treating it like a social app? Do you have conversations with people in comments under other tattoo artists' stuff? One huge one that you can do as a tattoo artist is go put an opinion on another artist's tattoos, maybe a tattoo product or that sort of thing. Obviously, it's up to you if you want to be respectful or not. I like to go down the route always, leading with respect, but I like to give somebody a compliment, like, hey man, I love this tattoo. I love what you did with the negative space in the tattoo. I love what you did with the contrast. Something to that effect, right? Not just heart emojis, not just fire emojis, not just hundreds and all that kind of stuff. Something that's a little bit deeper, more meaningful. And then what starts to happen is people will see your page or see your comment and say, who the heck is this guy? Who the heck is this person? Putting, what do they know about tattoos, right? And although it does seem small, little by little, you will get people that want to start looking at your page, and you actually start becoming social on these social apps, right? So that's like another way that you can start to put yourself out there and try to get more clientele, or at least become a voice in the tattoo world and in the industry and that sort of thing, right? Also, do you follow up? Another big one that I've noticed that some people don't think about is, do you follow up with your past clientele? I don't mean it like, do you hit up your previous clients and say, hey, let's get you back in the chair? No, nothing like that. But rather, do you create a good experience from the moment that they hit you up, and then afterwards try to continue that good experience by shooting them a message maybe 6 months later, a year later, something like that, and say, hey man, how you been? I remember you had that business, or you talked to me about your kids, hope they're doing well, something like that, and leave it, right? Show genuine interest in that person and hit them with a follow-up, and just leave it at that. Don't try to sell them again. Don't try to push tattoos on them again. You treat it more about the experience that you had with that person, about the connection that you made with them, and that'll put you above and beyond any other tattoo artist that they've worked with. Because who does that, right? Like, who makes the time for that kind of thing? And you can set that all up on a scheduling software. You can make it so that way every year or every 6 months, for every appointment, you get a reminder and says, hey, hit up this person, right? That's return clientele. They've already been in your chair. They've already been under the needle with you. So that's potential that's just sitting there. If you ever had a hard time filling up your books, right? And it could be that maybe they only want a small one or something like that, but because you never hit them up or you're not top of mind, everybody's got their own bills to take care of, their own day-to-day activities, their own things, but maybe they have that idea of a tattoo again in the back of their mind, and then all of a sudden they get a message from their artist like, "Hey, how you doing? Hope you're doing well." And then they're like, "Oh my God, wow, this person, thought about me. I'm not just another number for them." That goes way above what anybody else is doing. So I heard that before, and it's the treasure is in the follow-up, right? You want to do your absolute best to make those connections, try to remember what you talked about with your client, so that way in the future, you can create an even deeper experience with that client, right? So when I say follow up with your clients, that's a huge way of doing that. Some of my best clientele is return clientele, and it's a lot easier. It's a lot more comfortable working with return clientele than anybody else, right? Sometimes with new people, you're still getting to know each other, especially creating the design of what they like, what they don't like, and those sorts of things. So that's a huge way that you can try to stay booked up. And I think that's something you can start implementing today. After this podcast, take a moment and look at your books, look at your calendar, your software, and think, who can I reach out to right away? Just shoot them a text. You know what I mean? And say, "Hey, hope you're doing well," something like that. As a matter of fact, I challenge some of you to go ahead and do that today, so that way you can start to maybe bring back. Let's say you're doing okay with your books, but you want to fill up, for May, or you want to fill up for July, or whatever it might be, right? So that's something that you can take on. Another huge one that I still do to this day, right? Right now, I'm currently at a place where my rate is at a good rate. It's reasonable for the type of work that I'm doing and the type of clientele that I have. I'm doing about $1,300. But even at this rate, I'm still trying to figure out ways to create deals or create specials, maybe even work with certain clientele. I try my best that return clientele, I might, hook them up on the rate. Instead of doing $1,300, I'll tell them $1,000. Or maybe somebody that's been coming to me at $1,000, I might tell them $850 this time for this next appointment or something like that, just to keep them coming back, right? To creating that good experience. And in most cases, those clientele too, they'll tip you. You know what I mean? And these types of clientele are willing to go above and beyond for you a lot of times because you're treating them so well, right? But you have to sow that in the beginning by creating a good experience from the very beginning. But when you're first starting off, I would say, hey, this weekend I have an opening. Instead of doing 150, I'm going to do 100. Shoot me a message, or what's a great option? You can create a channel on Instagram and say, this is your cancellation list and important notice list, whatever it is you want to call it. Maybe you have 10, 15, 30 people in there, and you can put on their last minute cancellation this next Friday. Instead of doing 800 for my full day, I'm going to do 600. Shoot me a message, right? Try to create some sort of deal, some sort of special, right? Because sometimes that also starts to create the following and create this sort of like fandom of like, hey, I'm going to keep following this person. Maybe I didn't have the money right then and there and I wasn't ready with my idea, but the next time I'm going to be on the lookout. And I do get clients like that. I actually had a few people say that they stay on my channel, on my Instagram channel, for that reason, because I might put a cancellation. I'll say, hey, $150 off this day or $200 off this day, right? That goes a very long way with maybe getting a last minute cancellation, filling up your books, that sort of thing. One other thing you can do too, let's say someone's getting a matching tattoo with somebody and your minimum is 150, right? You do 300. Sometimes for those, I'll say, hey, I'll do both of them for 200 instead. I don't have to. I could always just tell them that's minimum through and through. But it creates that sort of like, oh wow, this person was willing to work with me, right? I've also done something like, I had a client who he wanted several tattoos, and he was looking to get his head tattooed, and his wife also had an idea. So we talked about it, and he was like, hey man, if you're down, I know that your half day is slightly more expensive if it's just a half day. But if you're okay with it, can we book you for a full day? And then you do a half and half, half the time on me and then half the time for my wife's tattoo. And, talking to them and kind of vibing with them in that first consultation, I felt I was up for it, and that's one other option right there that you can kind of throw them that. And then they're traveling too, so it makes them even more excited to want to, make the travel out. To me, they were coming up from Tucson, and so it is a 2-hour drive, and they got to wake up early that day and all that. So it makes it really worth it for them to drive out to me to get 2 tattoos for the price of one, essentially, all in one day, versus what they were able to find out in their town, in around them, So, and that kind of thing people remember. And actually, those clients have come back to me, I think, 4 different times now, and they're going to be coming back a 5th time to continue their leg tattoo, to continue the head and other areas that this client needs to fill out, So that's another. I mean, think of different ways. I'm sure there's way more creative ways that you can throw a deal to a client, keep them on the books, keep them coming back. Okay, so that's throwing specials, right? You can always throw some sort of deal, throw some sort of special price to a client, to past clients and that sort of thing, to keep them coming back, right? Also, another thing that we like to do, instead of just waiting for Friday the 13th, we'll say Flash Day. A lot of times I get a lot of repeat clientele who only book me for Flash Days, but every now and then I do get new clientele who saw my page, who saw the event. I do $50 that day for a small one, 60, maybe 75. You decide, right? And you can do it as a shop. You could do it by yourself. If you need to talk to your owner or the shop owner or your mentor first, I say do that. But if you throw some specials and post about it and all that kind of stuff, although you might still get some repeat clientele that only want to book you for that, you do get some people who you've never tattooed before. This is the first time they're actually getting a piece with you, even if it's a small one. And maybe they come back for a bigger one, or their friends and family see one, and it just so happened that they were looking for an artist and they like that small tattoo, or they saw your Instagram because of it, right? That's another way that you could stay booked. So throwing specials, making flash events and that kind of stuff. Another way that you can continue to stay booked or show people that you have tattoo ideas, or that you're thinking about getting or creating some sort of tattoo, is make 3 designs that you like. The more, the better. I think a little bit more than 3 or maybe more than 5 might be a little overkill, might be too much, information for some people to take in. Seems like 3, like 1 is not enough because it's very just one specific design. 2, you're kind of forced to pick between. 3, you have options, right? And people do like having options. But if you can showcase 3, it also shows that you have ability to customize tattoo work, right? And I've had it where I post 3 different designs, and sometimes they don't even pick the designs, which kind of sucks, but they don't even pick the designs. But because they saw that, they're willing to come in, book a tattoo, or they've had this other tattoo that they've had in mind for a while, something like that, right? That's a huge way. And especially now with iPads, you can whip out a design, within a couple hours, right? Instead of having to draw the whole thing out. I do recommend continue to draw. That's one other thing. If you're drawing, make sure to post it on live or post some sort of story, because people like that kind of thing online, Let me see. You can even start to do, giveaways, right? I know you've seen tattoo giveaways. I'm not a big fan of raffles. I feel like raffles can feel a little like scammy sometimes, or like, you can feel bummed out if you don't get the full amount for what you end up giving away on that raffle, and that can feel kind of shitty. So I'm not a big fan of doing raffles. I'd much rather just give the tattoo away and, ask people to like my page, follow my content, share it, that kind of stuff. And sometimes it is a good promotion. Sometimes it barely does anything, but you can create your own requirements, right? You can set the criteria for what you want for that tattoo, what you're going to allow, what you're looking to actually tattoo. If you want to do more black and gray realism, you can say this is only going to be for black and gray realism. Here are the designs you can choose from. With a giveaway, you can set the requirements. You can set the criteria for what you want, what you're going to allow, right? And the kind of tattoo work that you want to do, which gives you a lot of control. And then you can still push your page and push the type of content and artwork that you want to do onto your pages, right? And get the practice in, right? 'Cause, I mean, you're giving it away. There's no reason why you should also give away the complete creative control to that client, right? They're getting a free tattoo, so that's where you have to take back that control and decide what you want to do for that piece. So that could be a great way to start to, promote yourself, put yourself out there, gain some traction on your page, and also practice the type of tattoo work that you want to do, right? So that could be a huge way to stay booked up and try to push for clientele and that sort of thing. I know that I'm missing some. I know that for sure I'm missing some more ideas, some more creativity on the topic. But I will say this, there are some artists online complaining and, saying that it's not like how it used to be, or that maybe you're just running into hard times, but you're thinking of maybe even getting a second job or doing Uber or anything like that, which there's nothing wrong with that. But, are you being creative enough? Are you putting yourself out there? Are you reaching out to your past clientele? Oh, another one is, how are you treating your clients from the moment they hit your DMs or your text messages or emails, however it is that you do it? Do you make it hard for clients to reach out to you? When I was a lot busier and I had a lot more, I'm going to say, inquiries, I started to do the email route, where they had to fill out a form on my website, send me an email, and then I would reach out to them, right? During that time, I had way more inquiries, and not all of them turned into tattoos, right? But I had a lot of people reaching out to me. And when it started to slow down, I think towards middle of 2024 into the end of 2024, it was actually starting to slow down a little bit. And I was like, what am I going to do? How am I going to get myself into a better position? I cut that out completely, and I got a phone number that people could reach out to and just text directly. And just that simple shift made it so that way people can reach out to me instantly, and I could, reach out to them instantly. That's another thing too. People can be impulsive. We can be impulsive, right? And so if you have some money and you're like, oh, I'm able to do this with it, well, there's other 10, 15 different items that they are able to do with that money. So let's say they hit up an artist, that artist doesn't answer. They hit up another one, they don't answer, or they ghost them, or they're rude, or whatever, or they're just not good at having good conversations with people. They're just going to take that money and do something else with it, right? Or go find another artist that is going to talk to them, that is going to answer the text message, right? It's so important to try to reach people back as fast as you can. Obviously, you don't want to give it the ultimate priority. I'm sure you have a lot of other stuff in your day-to-day that you have to take care of, but that client that's reaching out has the idea, has the impulse, has the want for that tattoo in that moment. And if you're able to answer them, then that idea, that impulse can grow with you, and you can start to make it more real for them, right? And also, how are you responding to them? Are you being more dismissive, short with your answers and that kind of stuff? You don't have to put hell of emojis or like hell of exclamation marks or anything like that, but rather create a good conversation and create a good experience from the moment that they reach out to you, right? And I can guarantee you there's a lot of those conversations out there. And I know it too, because I have clients that come to me all the time that it was so hard. They tell me things like, it was so hard to get a hold of anybody. When I did get a hold of anybody, they barely talked to me, or it was very short answered, or they were straight up rude, or they tell me things like, I can't do that, I'm gonna do it this way. That to me just doesn't make any sense. Even if you don't want to do the tattoo, there's a tactful way to be able to have conversations with people and reject people politely, right? You don't have to be a total asshole to tell people, hey, I don't think that's the kind of work that would, best fit my style, right? Something like that. And so I see this all the time. I hear it all the time from clients that I tattoo, that there's artists who just don't, they don't put importance to that. And so then when they do reach out to somebody who is able to have a good conversation with them, make them feel welcome, make them feel excited about the whole experience, they're going to put out the money for it. And they're going to be, most of the time deposit ready a lot of times. And then after, as soon as you're done with that client, that's return clientele. You should treat them like gold. You should treat them like this person already said yes to me, right? This person already likes me, likes my artwork. They're willing to sit in the chair with me. They're willing to sit under the needle with me. Why not try to have them come back, right? So why ghost them? I hear this all the time from clients that the first session was great. The second session, it was hard to get a hold of them. The third one, they never answered me, or all of a sudden they're gone. They move shops and all that. Moving shops is fine. You can move shops. That's no problem. But why not answer clients? Why not try to follow up with them, follow through with them? They're wanting to come back to you. It's just that's one of those things that I hear in the industry that I've just never been able to wrap my head around. And I'm telling you, if you don't think that that's something that you're doing, maybe you need to reevaluate and start looking at those past conversations. Pull up old messages, start reading them, and think, somebody who didn't book, right? Somebody who didn't follow through. Did you wait till the next day to reply to them? Did you wait 4 or 5 hours? And then when you go try to follow up with somebody, are you hitting them up like, hey, sorry, I missed your message? That's not gonna cultivate those types of good experiences. And there might be one or two who would say yes to you again, but most of the time people are going to move on, and for a lot of these big projects, that I book these days, clients have to take the day off of work, or they might have to travel. They have to get babysitters. They have to, make changes in their lives for this event that they're also going to be paying good money for, right? So I think it's time that if you're having a hard time staying booked, then you have to start looking at yourself. You have to start thinking, what am I doing wrong? What can I do differently? When you get to that place, you will notice and you will start to see, right? It also starts with, what is the right question? Like saying, why am I not getting booked? That's the wrong question. It's, what am I doing wrong? And what can I do differently? Those are incredible questions. How can I start today, right? Versus like, man, they're always booked and I'm not, that's not the right mentality. So you got to start becoming self-aware and start thinking about what you can do differently. Those are just some of the things that I've noticed. Again, I'm pretty sure there's more creative ways for you to stay booked. Another huge one is stay organized. I like to use a scheduling software. I like to use DaySmart. It works for me. Yes, it's an investment because I have to pay monthly. It's a subscription, but that's what works for me. Having a book where I might leave it at home, or I might forget, or just a calendar that I fill out on my phone, versus like a scheduling software that also sends reminders and everything and helps me keep track of everything, is huge. It's another thing that really helps me and the way my brain works. So that might be something that you can look into to see if maybe that'll help you in the future. Thank you guys for tuning in on this one. The plan is to have a podcast out to you every single week with different topics. Maybe I'll have guests on here. Maybe I can talk about my story in detail, in depth of how I got into it. We can do product reviews and that kind of stuff. So again, thank you for tuning in. If you like this conversation, please drop a like. Tell me any other creative way that I miss that you do, because I would like to give it a shot and see if maybe that's something that I can start doing. But thank you guys. Peace.